Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I am Aisha Muhammad El-Amin. On behalf of Imam Tariq El-Amin, Resident Imam of Masjid Taqwa, Talim Committee Chair Dr. Aisha El-Amin, and committee members Dr. Lionel Allen Jr. and Dr. Gloria Bashir, welcome to today's Talim service. Let's begin with Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. With Allah's name, the merciful, the benefactor, the merciful Redeemer. Praises be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, the merciful benefactor, the merciful Redeemer. Master of the day of judgment, thee do we worship, and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and those who go not astray. Amen. Today's topic is how to avoid a messy death. This presentation will be completed by Imam Taalib Din Abdul Uqdah, and I'm going to give you just a short his bio. Imam Taalib Din is an entrepreneur, activist, and founder of Plan Money Club, Avoid a Messy Death, where he guides individuals and families through smart financial decision-making, estate planning, and general wealth preparation. His work helps people put their personal and legal affairs in order, clearly, intentionally, and before a crisis or death occurs. A first-generation entrepreneur raised in Washington, D.C., Imam Talib Dean was a heavy influence by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but was never a member of the Nation of Islam. He spent more than 5 decades building business and advocating for economic liberty. Alongside his wife and business partner, Pamela Farrow, he co-owned Cornrows and Company, the nation's most influential natural hair care leader, helping change workplace grooming standards, military regulations, and state licensing laws for hair braiders. His work is featured in the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture today. He continued his long mission through financial education, counseling, and community empowerment. I'd like to welcome him, and we're going to have questions and answers at the end. So I'm going to let Imam Talib take the lead now and begin his presentation. Gloria, can you check the chat for questions, please?
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Brothers and sisters, it is indeed an honor to have this opportunity to be able to present a portion of the ways that Allah has charged me to help us to avoid a messy death. I first want to offer you all the typical legal disclaimer, because I am not an attorney, nor am I licensed as a financial advisor in any state. However, my experience in this has come from real life processes that we've all been through. I just paid closer attention to mine as a businessman and an entrepreneur, because my view of the world comes through that of entrepreneurship. So I recognize that whatever experiences you have had in your life, those are the experiences in which you view other things that happen to you and to your family members. I do want to recognize and thank the Imam for this invitation. And I think when I'm finished, I pray Allah that I have offered you something that you would find of value. But I'm going to be real careful about how I present this information to you, because it can be overwhelming. And one of the things that I'm happy about is the presentation that I'm going to do today is not going to be on everything. I'm going to be focusing on 2 specific things, and that is a healthcare power of attorney that you would need if ever you find yourself in the hospital staying for any length of time. This is not necessary if you are just in and out. but it would be necessary for those of us that may have to be treated in a hospital for some emergency. It would definitely help should you find yourself ever unconscious or unable to function as you normally would. I'm also going to be focusing on and trying to put a lot of emphasis on your what is known as an advance directive. It is also referred to a living will. And this is a document in which you will sign and appoint someone to act on your behalf at, and it expresses your wishes at the end of life moments when you may be unconscious, when you may they may want to place you on a feeding tube or some breathing apparatus. So here's how I want to begin. First, I want you all to understand that this this information that I'm going to provide will be for the state of Illinois. Let me see. I'm trying to get one moment. Let me get someone to help me. I thought I had this together. So here is, first I want to make sure that you understand that I'm focusing on Illinois. So if that people who may be listening from other states, more specifically Indiana, I'll have to provide you with some additional information. So let me go to my next. Thank you very much. All right, so here we go. I want to start by letting us know, if you look at the very bottom of the slide that is there now, it gives you information as to how to reach out to me, either by email, by phone, or text. I've also placed my website address there for anyone that would like to visit my website. For those of you who are listening, the website address is www.avoidmessydeath.com. The email is info@avoidmessydeath.com. And at the bottom, you'll see my name, Taladin Uqdah, and my phone number is 202-421-8945. That's 202-421-8945. Now, for those of you who cannot see the screen, next Sunday, I'm on Study Al-Islam. I'll be presenting wills and trust, discussing which one may be right for you on March the 8th, and this will be every second Sunday. March the 8th, I'll be doing a talk on avoiding protracted probate. April 12th, I'll be talking about healthcare and advanced directives POA, which I'm going to deal with today for the audience at Masjid Taqwa. On second Sunday, May the 10th, I'll be doing a seminar on financial power of attorney. And then the last, in June, I'll be doing building generational wealth. But today, why is this sticking like this? Okay, here we go. So they're going to be, as I opened up, there are actually 5 ways to avoid a messy death. And you'll see the 5 of them on the screen now. Protecting your money, healthcare power of attorney advance directive, financial power of attorney, wills and trust, and then funeral and burial arrangements. Now, and please forgive me, I'm not playing on the intelligence of those who are on the Zoom. I'm trying to recognize that there are people who may be joining us by phone that can't see what it is that the rest of us see on the Zoom. But today I'm going to focus on healthcare power of attorney, advance directive, and funeral and burial arrangements. Now, I chose to include the funeral and burial arrangements for this presentation because, as you'll see as we go along, it is directly related to the advanced directive, also known as a living will. So some of you may be familiar with these terminologies, others of you may not, but as we go along, I'm going to give us an explanation as to what that is. I do understand that some of you have received from Sister Aisha some of the forms that I'm going to be talking about today. If you have those forms, when I get to them, I will describe them for you so that you can have them in front of you, because in many instances, my plan is to go through them pretty much line by line. If I should skip anything, there will be an opportunity for questions and answers. So if I miss something that you want me to address, please don't hesitate to just mark it on the form that you have, or just write a brief note to yourself to remind you, and I will certainly come back to it. I want to begin with these numbers. And so that I don't confuse many of you, it is safe to say, as those of you who can see, there are roughly 7 out of every 10 people, 70% on average, that do not have these particular things. So 70% of people in this country, not just Muslims, but people in this country are sole signers on a bank account. That is, your checking or savings account is in your name only. That's a problem. And you will see, I can tell you right now, because it's a problem, I'm going to give you an immediate solution that you can take care of tomorrow. So the problem is you are a sole signer on your bank account. The solution to the problem is tomorrow morning, go into your bank and ask them to give you a pay on death form, or a POD. P as in Paul, O, D as in David. Some banks may refer to them as a beneficiary form. So what is that? It is a form that you are going to fill out that essentially says, when you die, you are giving the bank permission to open up your bank account to the person that you name. That is the pay on death. They do not have anything to do with your account while you are alive. Nothing. They cannot write a check. They can't withdraw any money. They can't change anything. They can't do anything until you, the sole signer on that account, passes away. At that point, they will be able to walk into the bank with your death certificate and their identification, and the bank will immediately give them access to those funds, either through a withdrawal or opening up a new account. They would close your old account because you have authorized them upon your death. You want this individual to have access to your account. If you don't do it, whatever money you have in the bank, your family will not be able to access. And should they attempt to access it, it would require a court order. And they are not cheap. You have to go into the court and file documents requesting that you be given access to the account. The judge is then going to ask you a whole list of questions. The first one being, did this individual have a will? Now that puts you in probate. It can be months, if not years, that you get access to this account. That's a problem you can solve next week so that it doesn't happen to you or someone that you love. Nearly 7 out of 10 people die without a will. That's a problem. 67% of people who are 55 years and older have no financial power of attorney. Well, what is that? That is for those times when you find yourself incapacitated. You cannot do anything for yourself. You may be sitting up in the hospital and able to feed yourself. You are able to breathe on your own, but you have not been given permission to leave the hospital, but life goes on. You still have bills to pay. You've got rent. You've got mortgage. You've got car notes. Now, some of you may think, well, I ain't worried about that because all of my stuff is automatic. Well, God bless you. But here's what is not automatic. Should there become a problem with one of those automatic accounts that you have someone go in and withdraw money from, if a problem should occur, for example, your utility bills, your lights may go out, the bill may not come in, your gas is off, the water isn't running. Without this financial power of attorney, while you are incapacitated, none of the utilities will talk to the person who's calling on your behalf. Not one. This financial power of attorney would be filed with these various utilities, your various financial institutions, so that when the occurrence comes where you are no longer able to act on your own, you have appointed someone to do so for you. That is going to be imperative. Consider yourself told, because I suspect that many of you are going to listen to this, and you may, with all good intentions, want to have these documents in place, but then the procrastination monkey takes over and you don't get anything done. The two things that I want to talk to you about today are highlighted there in green. But the first thing I want you to notice is that 69%, nearly 7 out of 10 people in the United States of America have no health care power of attorney and no living will. So right now, we've got close to 30 people on this Zoom. I don't know how many may be on the phone. I don't really know how this technology works, but I do know numbers. And if there are 30 people on this call right now, that means 21 people out of 30 have no healthcare power of attorney, and no living will. That number jumps up when you realize that 74% of us die without funeral or burial arrangements. Now that 21 has jumped up to what, 22, 23? 23 of the 30 people on the call right now have no funeral or burial arrangements. And then we wonder why our Christian families want to cremate us. Cremation runs what, $2,000, somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000, maybe less if you shop around. A janazah with a burial plot may run you somewhere between 8 and 10, maybe 6 and 8. But what I'm hoping to do is to help us to start that process of looking into our funeral and burial arrangements. There's some things that you all could do tomorrow to help you in that regard, that would let your family know, I have a $5,000 policy that will take care of my janazah, where your body can be washed and shrouded as we're instructed to have it done. That will give some relief even to your Christian family, but you have to make provisions for that. You would have to, moderate recommendation is that you can make provisions with that insurance policy for the funeral home where your body is going to be washed and shrouded to receive those funds. And then you don't have to concern yourself with cremation. Now you can start working on your burial arrangements, getting your plot. And I can tell you, when you're making those burial arrangements, getting the plot is the thing that you need to pay for immediately. Mm-hmm. There are cemeteries that will set you up on a payment plan. Even if you were to purchase a burial plot and you've got it, there will still be other expenses associated with that, but most cemeteries won't look to collect those expenses until you die. Well, what expenses are those, Imam? The expenses are the time that they're going to take to open a hole for you to go in, close it back up after your service. Oh, well, no, let me change that. It's going to cost you to get what is known as a vault, a concrete vault. It is required in every burial site in the United States of America. There's no way for you to get around it. Unless, of course, you got your own land that, you can just bury your family on it. But if you have it in a licensed cemetery in the state of Illinois, you're going to need a concrete vault. Why? That concrete vault will prevent, over time, it will prevent your burial plot from sinking into the ground. That's essentially the purpose of it. You can still, I'd have to check this to be sure, so don't quote me on this. But there are some states that require that you be buried in a casket. There are others that will allow for your body to be removed, and you can be buried in an Islamic way, where there's a niche where your body would be set back into that niche. But we'll get to more details about your funeral and burial arrangements. But I want to start with the healthcare power of attorney and the advance directive. Now, for those of you, give me just a moment here. I want to see where I'm going to start. Okay. So for those of you who received copies of a document entitled Illinois Statutory Short Form,
Mhm.
Power of Attorney for Healthcare. At the top of it, you'll see the Bismillah. Just underneath of that, just to the left of it, you will see the seal for the state of Illinois, and it says Illinois Department of Public Health. They are the ones who issue this document in the state of Illinois. So that's the one that I'm going to go through now, and I'm going to try to take us step by step through this document. If you were to go online and pull this document up yourself, you will see at the end of their document the things that I'm going to go over with you now, so that should you find yourself in a position where you're not able to get all of this, or you miss the recording, or life just takes over and you're not able to get back to it, know that you can go to your own, you can pull up this same document that will give you the same information that I'm going to be giving to you now. So first, this is a document that would need to be in writing. There's no sense in it. It's good for you to tell people what your wishes are, but it is better if you have this in writing. So you are going to be appointing an agent, a person that you know to make decisions for you when you can't. And I want to tell you that when you are selecting this person, it needs to be someone that you have talked to beforehand, to let them know what is more important in their life, or in your life. What you also want to do is, as best you can, because we never know how we're going to respond to a particular situation until we're actually in that situation. Now, a lot of us, we talk a good game. I wish somebody would put their hands on me. I would do X, Y, Z. No, you won't. If you haven't been in that position before and have acted in that way, you're not going to all of a sudden get the courage to do so. So I'm saying that to say that there are many of us who have visited people in the hospital who perhaps have been in a bad way. You've seen some of your family members and your friends and associates that you pray to Allah, you never have the condition or find yourself in a condition like you see them, and it just you just can't emotionally deal with it.
Mhm.
To see this person that you've known most, if not all, of your life, and all of a sudden they're laying there helpless. There's nothing that you can do for them. That is not the person that you want to be your agent or be your representative on your healthcare power of attorney. It should not be someone that can't put their emotions in check. You need someone who is going to be clear-headed, someone who is going to be able to listen to the information that doctors and nurses may present to them, and have the wherewithal to be able to think through clearly enough to say, can I get a second opinion? So what does that mean? What I'm saying to you is, as best you can, do not pick someone who is afraid to question authority. You all have seen how doctors treat you when you go to a regular medical appointment. Just a regular medical appointment. You walk in, you walk out. But some of us are intimidated by the doctor, so intimidated that whatever he or she tells us, that's what we do, even though we may have received advice from non-medical people that could literally save our lives. So it needs to be someone that is willing to intelligently ask questions in order to make your experience a comfortable one. You need to discuss with this person how important it is for you to avoid pain and suffering. No one wants to experience that. This document would take care of that. You want to discuss with them, if you had to choose, would you want to live as long as possible or avoid prolonged suffering or disability? Those are questions that you're going to have to discuss with your family, or you're going to have to discuss with the person that you want to represent you when you can't represent yourself. You want to discuss with that person what your last days or weeks are going to look like. Do you want to be home? Do you want to be in a hospital? When you and your family, or your family knows that death is imminent, talk to them now about what your wishes would be. Why? Because those are your wishes that we're going to put in your document. So there won't be this back and forth and bickering and arguing. Well, Daddy said he wanted to be home. Well, we don't have no space for him at home. Yeah, but that's what we need to make space for him now, because that's what he said his final wishes were. What we're trying to avoid here is a messy death. We're trying to avoid arguing and bickering amongst those that you may be leaving behind. And it goes without saying that with your family or this person who you choose, they need to respect your way of life. They need to respect Al-Islam, that it must be considered. I even have language that you can insert in your document should you choose a Christian to handle your healthcare decisions. I have language that instructs that Christian to consult with an imam or consult with the person of your choice before they do something that you have already expressed that you don't want done. Big question you're going to have. This is one of the I would tell you, this is one of the biggest ones that you are going to face, is whether or not you want to donate or not your organs, your tissues, your eyes. You can also dictate under certain circumstances that you do not want to be embalmed and you do not want to have an autopsy performed. Generally, should you die in a hospital or hospice or under the care of a nurse or physician, someone licensed in the state of Illinois, you will avoid an autopsy. Let me tell you when you won't avoid an autopsy. If you die in a traffic accident, you will not be able to avoid an autopsy. An autopsy will be performed. Well, brother, I was killed in a car accident. I got hit by a bus on the street. The state requires an autopsy to determine a cause of death. And that cause of death will appear on your death certificate. And it will color when and how and if any insurance you may have had would become effective for whoever or whatever beneficiaries you have listed. The thing that we need to consider, and I have not found any Quranic evidence of this one way or another. So I'm not making a decision for you. But when it comes down to the donation of your organs, tissues, generally used for research, and your eyes, we need to decide what we want to happen with those things. Now, there are some Muslims that I've done advanced directives for, and they say to me, no, I do not want my organs donated. I want my body to be kept intact. There are others, and here's the question you need to ask yourself. You say, don't donate my organs, and your organs are things like your liver, your bladder, your lungs, your heart, things of that nature. Those are organs. Your eyes are not an organ. So that's a separate process. But you say, well, no, keep me intact. I don't want my organs donated. But you find yourself in the hospital and you need a kidney. You need a lung, a bladder, a heart. You don't want to donate your organs, but you'll take one from someone else who has. That's not judgment. It's just a question. And it's a question that you need to consider. And it's a question that I don't believe anyone has the right to judge you on. It's private, it's personal. But I would suggest, in fact, I'm going to insist that should you do an advance directive, which I believe is imperative for Muslims, because without it, the people in this case are going to be those who are caring for you as well as your family members. They're going to do what they do. So if you happen to be from a Muslim family, then I think you can pretty much rest assured that they're going to take care of you as they would want to be taken care of. But if you have made no provision, you've got no advance directive whatsoever, or you come from a Christian family, which many of us do, then that group of people are going to do what they think is best for them and what they can afford. So we need to be mindful of these things when we start to look at the documents we're going to need in those instances where we can't do things for ourselves. Now, I want us to understand, when you have this Illinois statutory short form, the power of attorney for healthcare. The decisions your agent can make for you is to be able to speak with your doctors and staff about your condition. They have your permission in advance to see your medical records and have the authority to approve who else can see them. They also have the authority to decide who can come visit you. So that if you are in a position where the doctor has said he or she needs to rest now, you can be the one to say to the doctor, don't allow any visitation for the next 3 days. You have that authority in that power of attorney. You can give the hospital permission to test or not test. You can give the hospital permission or not to dispense certain medications to you. You can even decide on surgeries or other treatments. That is the power that you're giving to this person because you can't do it for yourself. You are unresponsive. So that's why I'm saying we need to start having these talks with each other. Because I can guarantee you this. There are two things in this world that we never, ever talk about. And we don't talk about them for the same reasons. We don't talk about money, and we don't talk about death. Because we don't know enough about either one of them to be able to speak intelligently. We don't. We don't talk about money because we don't know what the hell we talking about. If we did, our community would be rich. All of us would have the things in place that we need. Financially, we'd have that material showing that Imam W.T. Muhammad talked to us about in the early days, how important that was. We don't know about money because it's always changing. We don't take it. We remember I told you. If I didn't tell you, I'm telling you now. 7 out of every 10 people live from paycheck to paycheck. There's at least 85% of people who could not put their hands on $400 in cash in case of an emergency. 400, much less 4,000. And what that says to me, particularly as an entrepreneur, particularly as a person who's been handling money 55 years, soon to be 56 years of my life. These are the things that need to change for us, and how we change them is to start talking about them. That's why I consider what I've been offered to do with us to be a blessing. This is information that I want us to have. Do I charge for it? Yes, but it's minimal. But my first purpose is to give it to you at no cost. You want to call and ask me about something? Call. You want me to send you some documents that you can't seem to find? Ask me. I'll send them. Ain't gonna be no charge for it because I'd rather you have the information than to try to see how much money I'm gonna make. I'm gonna be all right. Well, how do I know that? Because I'll soon be 74 years old. Who you think been taking care of me all this time? So it's gonna be all right. But the most important thing is to make you all right. So don't deny me my blessings. please give me give me the opportunity to be able to help and to serve you all. So let me go ahead and listen, Sister Aisha. This is what Sister Fitra was talking about when she said, "Make sure he stays on point."
Yes, sir, brother, because we want to allow time to question and
Yes,
answers
ma'am.
too. Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm going to go through this, and in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the rest of this real quick. I left off with decisions your agent should make. There are other things that I can talk about, and you all can just make note of these, and we can talk about them in more detail. Um, it, I can give you information on how to choose your healthcare agent. Um, what happens should your agent be unavailable or even unwilling to make decisions for you? You need to know that. Um, you also need to know, what if you don't do anything? You don't choose anybody, you don't have a document, you don't have health care, you don't have advance directive, nothing at all. What happens? And then we can we can also talk about that the fact that you may not have anyone that you trust as your agent, what it is you can do in those instances. Um, I'll get around to what happens when the form is completed, what you do with it. I also can talk to you about what happens should you change your mind. You do the document next week, you get everything notarized, you're ready to go, and 6 months from now, you say, you know what? I don't want that person to be my agent. I want somebody else. We can talk about what you do. And we can also talk about, fortunately, you are in a state that will allow for you to produce your own form for healthcare and power of attorney. So we'll be able to address that as well. Lastly, and I'm going to go through this real quick. Your advance directive and living will is a document that you create while you alive. There are some states that require you to have your funeral and burial arrangements in your will. That's not a problem, but I'm saying to you that is not the best place for it. These documents that you will be creating, your healthcare power of attorney, your will, your financial power of attorney, the advance directive, your funeral and burial arrangements, these documents should be provided to all of your caregivers so that the people that you have named as your agent and your successor agent, they should have copies of these documents. And as I told you earlier, some of these documents are imperative for us, particularly when it comes to your non-Muslim family members. I want to help us avoid these situations where our family cremates the body as opposed to giving us the janazah that Allah calls for. The other thing that we also can discuss later is what happens should you die outside of the state of Illinois and you've declared that you don't want your body embalmed. Doesn't work like that. You cannot ship a body without it being embalmed. What should happen to you, and this is a requirement, what should happen to any one of us that decide to go on Hajj this year? Allah instructs you in Quran. This ain't me talking. Allah instructs you in Quran that you need to have, in fact, it instructs you to carry your will with you on Hajj. I've been there. I've seen the body circumambulating the Kaaba because people died while they were on Hajj. So what happens to your body should that occur? I want to discuss with us how we can get some burial insurance, the payment plans that I talked to you about earlier, that some funeral homes will set up for you, and cemeteries will do so, particularly with those things that you don't need to have right away. And then providing the advance directive that I talked about, or the living will, to your family members, to your doctors, to your nurses, the hospital staff. All of these people should have copies of what your wishes are, so that there's no excuse. People saying that they didn't know what to do. So I want to respect the time now, and offer this opportunity for folk who may have any questions. Again, you will see my information at the bottom of this last presentation. For those who are on the phone, I can be emailed at info@avoidmessydeath.com. That's info@avoidmessydeath.com. And you can reach me directly at area code 202-421-8945. That's 421-8945. And that is on East Coast time. So I am 1 hour ahead of you.
Imam Taalib, I have placed your information in the chat.
Oh, good. Okay. All
And
right.
I don't see any messages, any questions in the chat now. If you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand. And if we don't get all the questions, we want to respect people's time answered during this Talim service, we will look at a part two if the Imam has time to be able to answer questions from them. I see Brother Bashir, Asad Bashir's hand now. If you would unmute yourself and ask your question. Brother Bashir, unmute
Okay,
yourself.
I'm unmuted now. Assalamu
Okay.
alaikum. Yeah, thank you, Brother Imam Taalib Uqdah, for your presentation today. Very, very thorough. Question: you mentioned about banks situation. When a person passes, what about a mortgage? One that may be a person single or married, and
Okay.
what occurs and what is the circumstances with a mortgage? And one other thing, possibly a correction. I had relatives of mine that passed in Florida. I did have the body shipped back to Chicago. It wasn't embalmed. They put ice on it. So it may not be in all situations where a body has to be embalmed.
Okay. All right, then I'll stand corrected. Anything is possible. I mean, and I would tell you, if that was something that was done with some immediacy, yes, that could be possible. But it doesn't take long for this body form of ours to start to decay. And but to answer your first question, if you are the only mortgage holder, as long as someone continues to pay the mortgage, the mortgage company they don't necessarily have to know. It depends on the circumstance that you may find yourself in. Here's where the issue is going to come up. In my mind, the issue is not so much the mortgage any more than it is the title on the home. How is the home titled? Because no one wants to pay or pick up to pay someone else's mortgage, and they have no opportunity to be able to inherit the house that you've paid a mortgage on. Let's say you pay it off. Well, thank you very much. Now that property becomes a part of that individual's estate. The other thing that you may be able to do, should you be of means. That is, you could qualify. Let's say this person had a 30-year mortgage that they paid on for half that time before they passed. Someone with a job and the credentials to be able to show the ability to be able to repay those last 15 years on the mortgage company may agree to allow you to pay it. But here's where the problem is going to come in once again. You paying the mortgage does not give you ownership of the house or the property. So being that that's the problem, the solution, if you look at the title on the home. If your name is the only name on that title, then you need to do two things. And one of them I'm going to do for you. One of them I'm going to do for you right now, and see whether or not okay. So here's something I can reasonably tell you at first glance.
So if I can just jump in for one quick second, Brother Imam, there are three other questions. Sister Aisha, there are three other questions also, just to let you know in the chat.
Right, real quick. Illinois, the state of Illinois, does offer a transfer on death deed. So you can go to the recorder of deeds and get a transfer on death deed that you can then leave your property after your death. And then hopefully that'll be a person you leaving it to that will be able to afford to continue to pay the mortgage. There are some other nuances to that that I would invite you to reach out to me, either text or email. And I can give you those nuances as well. But thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Gloria, one of the questions was, does credit unions and banks issue and pay on death form? Credit unions and banks do, yes.
Yes. It's required of every financial institution.
Another question is, without a written power of attorney healthcare, does the spouse automatically be given those rights? If the spouse, not if the children or the oldest to the youngest?
Without you having written direction, the hospital staff, be it the doctors or the nurses or whoever's caring for you, they will speak to the family and appoint a person who will act on your behalf, and the hospital will have its own form for you to fill out and sign.
Sister Aisha has posted, said you also can add a person to your title. Now with the state, even if you have a mortgage, you can just add them to their title. They won't be responsible for the mortgage, but they can be added to your title.
Yes, okay. They most certainly can. And and if I'm not mistaken, when you add I don't know if this includes the state of Illinois, but I know in some states, if you add a spouse or a blood family member to the title, you can avoid recordation taxes. That is, when you purchase real estate, most states have it so that there is a recordation and a transfer tax. When you're transferring property from one person to another, there's a tax. In DC, it's 1.1%. When they record that new title, there's another tax. Those taxes are avoided in some states where you are adding your spouse or a family member to the title.
Let me just jump in that there was one other question that was before those other ones. Can you speak to TODI, T-O-D-I, and should we inform mortgage companies?
I'll need a better definition of the acronym that's being used.
That question comes from.
Assalamu alaikum. I can ask. I'm on. I can ask the question. This is Samira.
Yes, ma'am.
Assalamu alaikum. It's the transfer of death instrument, TODI. So that the property doesn't fall into basically rebate, not rebate, fall into what is that they call?
Probate.
Like probate. I'm sorry, excuse me, probate. And should we also inform the mortgage company that we've put these persons down as a TODI?
Okay,
because
so
if something happens, God forbid, if I should pass, with them not being on a title, would that be a problem?
I believe we are talking about the same thing. A TODI doesn't sound like it's any different than a TODD. That is a transfer on death deed. This is a document that, in fact, I'll try to download one and send it to you, sister, or send it to anyone that wants it, for the state of Illinois. It is a document that you will give your name, a description of the property according to state records, the lot and square number, and then it will ask you for the names and addresses of the people you want that property transferred to upon your death.
Okay.
Absolutely. That is imperative.
Okay, because I did file that part, the TODI, with the state, the state, the city already. But okay, I appreciate the form.
Yes,
change
ma'am.
of deed. Thank you.
Yep.
One of the things I'm going to add to that is that depending on when a person makes their transition, you can do a small estate affidavit, but there has to be no one that will contest that, a small estate affidavit, and then that will give you access to a bank account or even to a mortgage company. But the mortgage company also depends on how the mortgage has been deeded to determine, and some people don't. Some people pass away and they never notify the mortgage company. They just keep on paying the mortgage. Now, I don't know what happens when the mortgage paid off, but I know that can happen for them. But a small estate affidavit can come from, or did come from, the funeral home. When my youngest daughter passed away, we did that for her so I could be able to access and do everything that she needed to do. So just to add that to the information that you're already given.
Yes, ma'am. And for those who in the state of Illinois, last year, the small estate affidavit for probate went from $100,000 to $150,000. So one of the things that I try to do in helping people draw up their wills is to make sure that they can keep their estate under, in this case, under $150,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And one of the things, you do that by taking a look at your assets that allow for beneficiaries. So if you've got $100,000 insurance policy, check to see who your beneficiaries are, because if it's someone that you've named that has predeceased you, that $100,000 is going to go into your estate. Well, and the reason you should care about that is because it goes into, once it gets into your estate, then it gives everybody with a last name the opportunity to get a piece of that money. So if you've got unpaid credit card bills, if you've leased an automobile, those people are going to be in line to get their money. Your medical expenses, your whatever coverage you have, it may not have paid for all of it. Those people are going to be lined up to get whatever is in your estate. The less you have in the estate, the less they're going to get.
Ma'am, we're at I want to respect people's time because I know people had allotted an hour for this. If you want to stay on and ask questions, I don't know what your time permits, Imam, or if not, we can look at a part two for this presentation because we talked about the power of attorney for financial and the power of attorney for healthcare, and we did not even touch on trust and wills, which will putting a property in trust gives a whole different dynamic on how to protect your access. And I know you
Yes.
have information related to that. So if you need to get offline now, please don't hesitate to exit. If you can stay on, you can still stay on if you still have additional questions that you want to be able to ask the ma'am in reference to power of attorney for health and power of attorney for financial and how to avoid a messy death. Because we've had some believers in the community that passed away did not have everything in place, which created problems for his family because death caused such an horrible division in family. People you think that was participating and want to be, was connected to family, all of a sudden everything changes because money changes, changes the whole dynamic of it. Imam Tariq wanted to thank you so much for stepping away and that he's looking for part two. So if you need to leave the call at this time, you can leave the call, or if not, your time permits, you will be able to come back and add a part two for us.
Hmm.
Um,
I'll do both. I mean, I'll stay on now,
okay.
and should it be the wish of the community that I come back, um, we can make those arrangements, inshallah. Also, this would be a good time to remind those that are on the Zoom or on their phones. Next Sunday on Study Al-Islam, I will be doing a presentation limited to wills and trusts and asking the question, which one is right for you? So